Welcome to US Weather Plus Final Summer 2013 Forecast Video Part 2 out of 3, which includes temperature, precipitation, severe weather, and drought forecasts, as you see here. Now, first, there's a notice. Please watch Part 1 out of 3 before you watch this, because Part 1 has some important model-based information, which would be not necessary, but very useful for you to watch and see before you watch this video. Now, if you haven't watched part 1, please leave this video, pause it, return to part 1, which you'll find before this video, watch part 1, and then return to this video once you watch part 1, because part 1 is only 4.5 minutes long. Now, I hope you watched part 1 by now, so let's now go to part 2, which will include the first part of my forecasts. I'm gonna start with the temperature forecast, and let's take a look at what we're going to see. We're going to see, first of all, I'm gonna start with the hottest regions. So here is the well above average. The red area is well above average temperatures. And well above average temperatures will include southwestern Iowa, southeastern Nebraska, the majority of Kansas, the majority of Oklahoma, much of northern Texas, northwestern Arkansas, much of western Missouri, and even southeastern New Mexico. All of this area you'll be sizzling hot. Possibly it could be near record-breaking temperatures. A lot of hundreds, widespread hundreds if you go these regions in here, Kansas and Oklahoma, but definitely hot in these areas. In the orange area, you see in the orange reddish area, this which includes southern Minnesota, eastern South Dakota, central Nebraska, western Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, much of the eastern part of New Mexico, southern Texas, western Louisiana, much of the state of Arkansas, extreme western Tennessee, extreme western Kentucky, extreme southwestern Indiana, much of western and southern Illinois, much of the rest of Iowa, and extreme western Wisconsin. Those areas, even though they'll not be as hot as the red area, they'll still be at above average in temperature. So even though it will not be as hot, you'll still be very warm in those areas. Now, the desert southwest is this area. Now, usually the desert southwest, especially in the summer, they're in the orange and red. Now, what happened? So really, what I think that much of the west, and I think will be a negative. I think it'll be a negative P and A, a positive AO, and possibly a minorly negative NAO. So there'll be a minus P and A here, a plus AO up here, and there'll be a slightly minus NAO in here. That will cause the ridge over the central parts of the U.S. But I think that because the minus P and A, the west will be below average, including the deserts. And then these areas, they can still be a little bit below average to maybe a little bit below average in North Dakota, Minnesota, and Montana. And this area will be wet, and rain really greases the temperatures. So if it'll be rainy, it means it'll be cold, and these areas will be well below average in temperature. So you may be seeing 70s in those areas, much of the summer 70s and 80s. Well, let's say 70s for the summer, so it could be really cold in here. Great Lakes region will be pretty cool, and I don't think it'll be as cold in the northwest, but it still will be pretty cool because the minus NAO located above the Great Lakes in here. So maybe Michigan, much of the state of Michigan, both the upper and lower peninsulas, they could be pretty cool. And portions of the Ohio Valley and interior northeast would still be influenced by that, negative NaO. Now, as you see here, areas more south will be in the blue too. Now, why is the reason for that? The reason for that is this area, which includes the Gulf Coast, like southeastern Louisiana, southeastern Mississippi, southern Alabama, southern Georgia, all of Florida. This area, it will be below average. Temperatures will be cool. It will not be very cold, but it will be cool. Now, again, that will be because of rain. But where will the rain come? I think I'll get into more details about this, but I think the tropical systems will come in here and landfall here in Alabama and the panhandle of Florida. So I'll give you more details about this in the third part of my summer forecast, the third and last. And then, as you see here, it'll be below average here too, along the Mid-Atlantic and New England, southern New England, because tropical systems might reach these areas too, so it'll be rain cooled. Now let's go to the precipitation forecast, and it's somewhat similar to the temperature forecast. The driest areas will again be here, much of where the hottest areas would be, and it could be a major drought going on in this area. And again, the desert southwest will not be really dry. This orange area will be dry, but not as dry as red area. Well, the majority of the deserts in the southwest will be average, if not slightly above average precipitation. I currently think it will be average. Now, there will be much of the northern interior of the country, from the northwest to the Great Lakes, will be in above average precipitation, but not well above average, just above average. Then, how about here? The Gulf Coast will be above average in precipitation too, because of the tropical systems that will hit those areas, as well as in New England and the Mid-Atlantic, which will also be influenced, if not hurricanes, at least rain, which will be the remains of those hurricanes. Now here's the severe weather forecast. Here's where it gets interesting. This green area, that's just a slight risk for any severe weather. It'll be across much of the Intermountain West. And then this yellow area is a moderate risk. So I think that areas up the coast, up the west coast, going to be seeing a few more severe storms than the mountains, because when systems come in from here, and if there will be a system that will produce a severe weather outbreak somewhere in here, some of its energy would be enough to provide a few storms down here. So that's why I put a moderate risk here. And also portions of the deserts and the middle parts of the country in a moderate risk too. The higher risk would be for much of areas near and east of the Mississippi River, except the northern portions of Maine, which will be in moderate risk. Where the extreme risk will be these two areas. Now this area will be prone to systems that will be coming in from here, I think. And these systems will be producing severe weather, and some in these areas they'll be likely to produce it, because there'll be cold air coming in from here and warm air coming in from here. That will be battle of cold and warm here. And then this area, why this area could see severe weather, a lot of severe weather too, because when tropical systems come in, they bring some weak rain-embedded tornadoes. So this area could see some rain-embedded tornadoes if hurricanes come in. This area is in extreme risk along the Gulf Coast for the same reason, because when tropical systems come, they might bring weak tornadoes. Finally, let's go to the drought risk forecast. Now, the reddish-brownish area, that's where there is an extreme risk for a drought. And there'll be a very big risk for a drought in this area. On this area, you'll be probably in a major drought this summer. Then this orange reddish area has an enhanced risk, and you'll still have a good chance of a drought in this area, but it might not be as major. It will still be definitely at least a moderate drought, maybe major. But these areas will have an exceptional drought in this area. This area might get to severe drought. Exceptional is higher than severe, but it's not such a good chance. Yellow area, there's still a chance of a drought, but it will not be as big. It's an elevated risk for a drought. The chances are not really huge, but they still exist there. In the green area is a slight risk for a drought, and that means that even though probably do not be a drought is not anticipated, you still need to watch for abnormal dryness, maybe a very slight drought. Abnormal dryness will be possible along the Georgia and maybe portions of the South Carolina coast too, if there will be minor blocking somewhere in here. I'm not completely sure about that. So let's go to the summary. The hottest and driest areas should be in the central US. The coldest and wettest areas should be the Pacific Northwest, as well as the upper Great Lakes region. Severe weather will be abundant across the Midwest, as well as weak tornadoes will be abundant together with tropical weather across the Gulf Coast and Mid-Atlantic coast. Drought conditions will flourish across the Middle Great Plains region of the US. That pretty much sums up the forecast. Please join me for part 3 out of 3 of my summer forecast, which should come out later tonight and not tomorrow morning, and it will talk about the forecast for the tropical weather, including the landfall risk and the total hurricanes this season. If you have any comments, feedback, and/or questions, feel free to leave them for me. And don't forget to visit usweatherplus.wordpress.com and like our Facebook page too. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for part 3 of my final summer forecast.